Hi, hello everybody. Hi, I'm Emma. I'm the head of programs at Writing on the Wall, and today we're here for our block party for the wonderful Ciarán Hodgers, who's been our writer in residence. I'm just going to recommend that you pop us into speaker view. And if you'd like to have your camera on with us, that would be great. But don't feel that you have to either. It's nice to see faces, but I also get it. Sometimes it's nice just to watch. Okay, so today, like I said, we're here for our finale of Ciarán's residency at the Writers Bloc. For those of you who might be joining us for the first time, the Writers Bloc is our online writing centre that we set up, that Ciarán actually set up with us at Writing on the Wall over 2 years ago now, and it was a response to the pandemic, and it was a place really for us to ensure our communities had space to be creative and to connect. And it's been hugely successful, and it's been absolutely wonderful to welcome Ciarán back to us and to have you as our writer on the block. Welcome, Ciarán. A little virtual round of applause. So we're just gonna, well, you are the star of the show, but unfortunately we've got 3 other stars of the show.
Not unfortunately, I'm so glad they're here to read.
Yeah, and actually I was just saying to you in the waiting room, when I found out who it was that was reading, I was absolutely made up and just kind of like, what a lovely Friday afternoon. Okay, so before we get to our readers for today, first of all, thank you so much for being our latest writer on the block. How have you found it?
It's been brilliant. It's been really nice kind of seeing people who I met when I was running the Writer on the Block and seeing how their work has changed and developed quite substantially in the last couple of months, or maybe a year if it's been a while since I've seen people. I was almost like, is that the right person? Because that work feels completely different from what I remember reading before, because I would always have a sneak peek at the work just to fulfill my own needs of reading great work when I was sending it over to the writers. It was really interesting, you know, when I was offered to do the residency, I kind of thought, oh God, do I have anything to actually say here? Like, I sort of had to think quite long and hard about it. I was like, I don't know what I have to say. And since going through the program and kind of seeing how responsive the audience and participants have been, it's been really a wonderful thing. And also to know that some of the work has been quite helpful for them as well was a really lovely gift for me, to know that there is some value in the work that I've got to share and the things that I have to say, and my experience of kind of being a creative person. We've had some great chats. You know, we talked a lot about nature and the environment and our relationship to that and climate change. We talked a lot about mental health and wellness and self-care, and trying to sort of wrestle with what self-care is, because it's not all yoga masks and downward facing dog. I always joke that, you know, a bubble bath is not going to heal your childhood trauma kind of thing. And we looked at self-care through the lens of creativity and writing, and I think we came away from that session with a lot of kind of new ideas for ourselves about what that might mean. I know one of the participants who I worked with on other projects and has been a stalwart of the Writer on the Block session said that they were frustrated that they just get told to relax and they don't really know how to. So we had a real great opportunity to kind of like find what works for people individually and be like, oh, if meditation's not your thing, go, I don't know, play a card game or do a puzzle or redo it, like make up like use your mechanic skills and fix up a car kind of thing. Whatever brings you that mindfulness can be really interesting. And then with the workshops and in conversations, it's been interesting watching the different people that come to those sessions, because I feel like I set their conversations, like the Enterprise Hub and the workshops, up to kind of be a little bit of a pathway to, like, no matter what stage you're at of creating a collection, you can kind of come to the workshop about creating that collection, come to Enterprise Hub about what happens after that, and then the workshop on writing to commission. So hopefully people have the start of some tools there, so that whatever comes their way in the future, creatively and professionally, they can run with themselves. You know, in the one-to-ones, I never said to anyone, I'm going to tell you what to do here. And some people ask me, should I take this out or should I leave it in? And I'm like, that's for you to answer. Like, whilst that might sound like a bit of a cop-out answer, it's the truth. I'm not there to tell anyone what to write. I'm there to teach them the tools to writing so they can use those tools however they wish to. So that was a really interesting thing for people. I think for participants to come to a session like this and have the resident writer kind of say back to them, it's all about you. Like, you have the answer within yourself. How can you go about finding it? These are the tools. And the range of work that I got over the one-to-ones was astonishing. Some really fantastic stuff that I read quite a few times, and it certainly kept me busy and entertained when there was a week during the residency where I was traveling quite a bit, so I was able to download stuff onto my phone and make an hour long flight much more enjoyable than just reading the back of the seat in front of me. So I really appreciated that from the participants to just brighten my day a little bit. And yeah, I've come away from it just having really enjoyed the experience of being able to work with these writers, met some new friends, had some great conversations. To be back with the WoW gang was lovely. To meet some of the new members of the team who I haven't had a chance to meet, it was great. And just kind of be present, be resident, right? Was a really lovely experience. I can't believe the 3 weeks is over. I still feel like there's 3 weeks left to do. So it's been incredible. I'm really grateful. I'm really privileged to be able to do stuff like this. So thank you.
Well, no, thank you. I think there's a couple of things I've written down as you were talking. It's good to hear a writer say they still get imposter syndrome, like, what have I got to bring? And I never get tired of saying that, because I think, and I don't mean that in like it's good to know you're struggling. But to be honest, to say like, oh God, I always think that, and yet our view of you would be something quite different, really. And so it's kind of, I think that's the beauty of the writer's block, is that it's intimate enough that you get that conversation that you probably wouldn't get in other places, and just being able to kind of talk to a professional like that.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked a little bit about the sort of harms of social media on the creative health of a person, and how social media is just designed to, like, basically where people just share what's going great for them, and it makes us feel imposter syndrome. And I think the writer's block is intimate enough where you can be vulnerable with people, and I'm a big advocate of saying, yeah, I haven't got everything figured out. Like, some of this stuff is a question to me. That's part of what we call the craft of it, right? You develop the craft. We're not all born, the people that we become. So it's about that craft. So yeah, having that space to be vulnerable about that was really valuable for me.
Yeah, I find that in the Writers Bloc sessions, I find that quite refreshing. And I also really like that it is all about the writers, and it's all about them getting a chance to kind of really kind of bed in, to use your phrase, and kind of and have a go, and that you can get it wrong and it doesn't matter as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, in fact, that's how you probably come out with the best work, is getting it wrong and going, oh, I should have kept it.
Absolutely. And it's a statistical inevitability that you will get it wrong. So you're going to have to be comfortable with that in some shape or form. If you go through life without ever getting it wrong, first of all, congratulations. Second of all, what are you going to learn? Do you know what I mean? We're all here having made mistakes in life, big or small, impactful or not impactful, but it's all about what we do with those. And I think stuff like the Writer's Block can create a space where it's okay to make mistakes because you'll learn from them. And it's about that mindset shift, about saying, great, what can you learn from it?
Yeah. And the tools to help you write as well, I find that really invaluable. It's something that we've had lots of conversations on, but kind of being strict to yourself, it's like, people always say that, oh, I love having a bath, that for my mental health, get in. And then I find that I'll always write after I've been in the bath. But sometimes when your brain is going 10 to the dozen, having a bath, you messy. Sit in a body of hot water and just like that, like with like thoughts racing through my mind. And so I think it's really good to keep that conversation open, because you hear, there's the amount of times I've heard you say, "We've tried this," and I'm like, "Okay, I'll give it a go," and you listen and learn and find out what's best for you. Well, I'm made up, really. Yeah, like you said, you covered self-care, environment, you've had the one-to-ones, about writing to commission or getting published and how that can work. we had a good old chat about how you got into writing, me and you, which I know that the members of our WOW team were like, oh, really love that, like, and kind of inspired them to go off and write. And we are going to hear from three writers today. We've got Angela, Marin, and Jules. But before we hear from them, you are going to give us a little bit of, well, your creative response to being our writer on the block. So I'll show up and let you read.
Fab, thanks very much. So this is my response. I'm not going to chat about it because I'm sure Emma and I will have a little chat about it afterwards, but it's called Behavior. On the bookshelf behind her, a wooden Buddha perches near her shoulder. His mouth melts into the slightest smile, a knowing look as I scan the titles, wondering which might provide an answer. I've been fading more and more since we've been talking about behavior, a flicker here, a flash from time to time. Now, she's struggling to find eye contact at all. I see her searching for an approximate position, careful not to seem too frantic that all she sees is the cream wall behind me. You know, there's this frog in the Arctic Circle that can freeze its blood to survive the harsh winter? She nods, knowing I communicate in pilgrimages. Or do you ever think about giraffe necks? How generations spent reaching for leafier branches higher up the tree eventually gave them the lift they needed. Outside, wood pigeons coo in their suburban patter, reminding me of being poured into glossy mornings, coconut sun cream, idle dusks and notebooks. What does this feel like in your body? She encourages a more direct path. Like a need to stretch, I think. Like this is someone else's skin, that I'm prone to seizures of disappearing emotion I can't escape. I'm lonely for myself, I say, and something shimmers. Light dappled from the trees outside, perhaps, with the twinkle of a wind chime, maybe a car door flashing in the sun as it closes. She sits forward, eyes flared with opal insight to find mine. What would it feel like if you could take all the energy it takes to disappear and channel it into something that would make you feel more solid, more alive, more yourself? I think of colour-changing cuttlefish, dung beetles chartering the light of the Milky Way, lizards dropping limbs like disposable prosthetics, bowfin fish fixing eyes to their tails. If I could choose how to change, it would feel like forgiveness. Just then, a bright silhouette traces the wall, a glittered chalk outline glistening gold like an aura. I appear to have an edge now, as if I were made of glass, with a shimmer of self refracting, a ghost of light framing the god on the shelf behind her. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Feels weird to be sharing something that's so fresh off the boat.
well, yeah, okay. You can write, can't you? If that's what you come out with, fresh off the boat.
It's been something that's been rattling around my head for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And we were talking in a lot of the one-to-ones about how to plan before we sit down to write. And some people were really surprised at that comment. They were like, what do you mean planning to sit down to write? And I was like, think about what you're going to write before you write it. And it seemed like a bit of a strange suggestion to some people. They were like, I don't get what you're talking about. And I was like, just sit with it, and let it kind of wash over you a little bit. And I've been washing over this poem for a while, and I've been just attacking it the same way time on time again. And I was just writing out a description of what the poem was about, more so than the poem itself. And in our conversations about the environment and mental health, I decided to place this conversation in the context of a counselling session. So the conversation that never actually happened, that conversation, but it felt like an interesting tool and an interesting strategy in which to place those conversations and what needs to happen. in order for the poem to say what it wants to say. So the poem itself is looking at evolutionary biology, and which is essentially just a series of choices, a series of behaviors that went on to change the morphology of different creatures, from mechanical, so the giraffe's neck, to like, you know, hormonal cuttlefish changing their colors, to a whole range of everything. Like everything that exists in the planet has evolved to shift into its ecology to create its survival, to increase its survival skills for the best chances. And then it got me thinking about human behavior, psychological behavior, and how we may outgrow the environments in which we develop those behaviors, right? We may develop a behavior as a young person and then grow up and no longer need that behavior to survive in the environment we find ourselves in as adults. So the question then becomes of, well, that's quite a powerful force, right? You were doing it so subconsciously that it's kept going even though you no longer need it. So what could you do if you could almost evolve in a chosen choice? Like, what would it be that you could do with yourself if you could take all the energy and direct it somewhere intentional? So it's kind of creating a link between survival and change in behavior, but just that sense of whatever we come with to ourselves, whatever we find at the table of ourselves is okay. It's accepted, it's valid, there's a reason for it to be there, but doesn't mean we can't change the table, right?
Sorry, I'm just looking at you like, wasn't it? What? Yeah, I loved it, and I kind of guessed it might have been a counselling session, but it's the way that you and the conversation feels like they're both teaching each other, though. It's not like and I think that's what's quite refreshing about that. And there's loads of line, dung beetles charter in the Milky Way. I know that's not the whole line, but that one is like in my brain. And if I could choose how to change, it would feel like forgiveness. That was a gorgeous line. His mouth melts. I've written loads. Just loved them. I couldn't write quick enough. I was like, listen. And the performance of it, I think, can't be ever understated with you, Ciarán. Love, I think that's what makes your poetry is amazing on the page as well, but I love listening to you perform as well, and it's great to watch a master. Thank you so much for sharing. Can I see the next collection before anyone else does, please?
Yeah.
No,
absolutely.
Okay, well, I'm gonna hand over to you now, and you're gonna introduce our 3 readers for this afternoon. So I'll see you back in a bit.
Fab, thanks a million, Emma. First of all, thanks so much to everyone who's watching in Zoom, on Facebook, on YouTube. We really appreciate it. And thank you so much to our 3 volunteer performers for this evening, Angela, Maren and Jules. It's been a pleasure to meet you again, or meet you for the first time, and to have some really great conversations with your work. I know everyone else is looking forward to hearing you as much as I am. So please, first up to the mic, Angela.
Thanks, Ciarán. I just want to say a big, massive thank you to you, because this residency it's just been amazing from start to finish. Some of the stuff I write about nature, spirituality, myth, I would never have been brave enough to show anybody, but it felt like talking to a friend with you, so thank you.
Oh, that's so sweet, Angela. Thank you so much.
This one's called How a Butterfly Taught Me to Live Again. In the hushed and hallowed halls of the museum, I first saw you pinned there. Beneath the glass case in a sliding drawer, and in your still silence, I learned something of grief. Torn piece of sky trapped between 2 panes of glass that still showed you a light you could no longer reach, and I felt that, even then. Myself no more than a child. All wind blown with eyes still full of sky, I felt your pain. Later, when I broke, I would watch you from my brick backyard, little winged priest kneeling petal deep in prayer, buried deep in a bruise of bluebells, your stained glass wings scattering light, and I felt you. Delicate deity fluttering amongst cathedrals of leaves, I watched you, silently sipping sunlight beneath a brief violescent sky, and all this violence above you, all this violence around you, yet you land so lightly on this life. And it made me think of my father's last breath, of the way it blew gently from his lips, a soft lifting, then silence. How I, when men gilded in sunlight, pinned me beneath the weight of their hate, and I crawled on my belly, unable to find, unable to see my own wings. Already there waiting, tucked away inside me, gentle origami. In secret I span myself to silk, sinking into darkness I shed my old skin, ate myself alive, trusting at last in the strength of my own wings to hold me up, to carry me, wind blown, beneath this brief and brilliant blue. And this second one is called In the Shadow of the Pomegranate Tree. Exotic emissary of sun-ripened shores, lamp of paradise lit from within, forbidden fruit of the earth, fresh flesh sprung forth from a single flower, plump berry bursting with life, succulent sacs of sweet juice sucked from the pulp, tearing your speared flesh with our teeth to find the hidden jewel inside. Swill knowledge down our throats till it runs down our chins, through our fingers we gorge on it. Decadent jewel-encrusted orb, calyx crown, you are woven somehow into the fabric of our skin, our histories, hair stories, sacred mysteries embedded deep within your core. Arrogant, barren of sons, gorged on desire and hope, pressed like a flower beneath the weight of his guttural goans, he seeded her, sucked on her sweetness like a cure for his own rot. She watered daily the seeds of her faith before falling foul to fate's twisted kiss. Persephone, in the glades gathering flowers, fell, and don't all women fall? Never can scrub away the stains from our skin, your indelible ink. Yet she chose to swallow 6 sweet seeds in return for a half-life of shadows and light. She comes springing fresh buds from her fingertips, flowers spilling from the O of her mouth, parting time with the widening of her legs. She knew full well what she wanted. Sitting in the shade of the pomegranate, waiting, hoping for the tidal flow to blossom into something other than this. Praying, prone beneath the blood-red moon, jealous of the gelatinous jewels shivering inside these sacred swollen fruit pregnant with promise. Packed pockets of potential, grenades of glorious generation, venerate these vesicles of vitality. Crushed rubies, gorged on gannet spilling from our lips, our prayers seed life into the freshly tilled soil, scattering possibilities we wait to nestle once more at the teeth of Mother Earth's breast, to be birthed once more in glory, healed from the wounds we carry buried deep within our deep dark core. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angela. That was a treat to sit back and listen to. That butterfly poem was just absolutely gorgeous. Little winged priest buried deep in prayer. Stunning, stunning sentence. And the way you sort of juxtaposed the gentleness of the creature with the violence and the darkness made both of those elements sort of sing and shine much brighter. It was a really crafted, tender piece of work. And then the mythic Persephone reigning supreme with her pomegranate seeds. You've got a real love of the myth and the sort of archetypal female, which I adore and I love it. And I can't wait to hear and read more of your work. And I think you've got a real sense of pulling these archetypes and these figures that we know into new and fresh instances. The work that you shared with your one-to-one was another mythic creature. And I'm really excited to see what you create with these other myths and these other things, and what your perspective is on that. And I really appreciate you saying that that's not work that you have often shared with people. So I feel very privileged, very grateful that you felt comfortable enough to share that with me, because yes, a nature poem with myths is definitely going to be something that I'm going to enjoy reading, and I certainly did. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey with me. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Angela. Please, next up to the stage, Maren.
like I want to say a huge thank you to Ciarán. I had a wonderful half-hour session. The notes I took away was, I'm not sure what I should do here. Mental self, safe space, environment and mental health have always been really important in my life and the journey I've been on. This morning I spent the whole morning picking up litter off the beach, and 10 minutes, an hour before that I did 10 minutes of Qigong, feeling really stressed because I couldn't get the Qigong in time. And within 5 minutes of being on the beach and picking litter up, I was relaxed. So it was just, and I said to my mum, it's my mum's 65th wedding anniversary today. Mama, I'm on the beach. You would not believe my life now. And I wanted to say thank you, Ciarán. You do make differences, as WOW has made and my WOW family has to my life. So here's my first poem, which is going to be worked on. But Ciarán read this to me on Tuesday, and I was just totally taken. He read my work to me. So I just wanted to do this one particularly. It's called The Travellers. Popped up, feral, scum, vermin. You say life, love, hope, charity. I know different words. Outsiders, country cousins. The 2010 Act affords you protection. If a court decides, outsiders, you stay. Centuries of derision taught you to be true to your heritage. And my second one is, I'm going to try and do it first in Gaelic sounding language, and it's called Blood Runs, and then I will transcribe it into English. Abith Iraq, Abith Dub, Abith Madra, Fitis Kena, Tamanche Anse, Difera Kemfa Abigan Pas, Gota, Kemfe Ria Gles Moke Fuller Astra, and Egg, Gera me Egus, Kenel me de Sefia, Falkland Begla, Ciarán. No Irish, no black, no dogs. 50s language. Here I am, asked why I have a British passport. Famine. Why does it run green in my blood instead of red? Cut me and I bleed green. I still not ready. English education, English reserve, but Irish heart of passion.
Thank you so much, Maren. It was a pleasure to hear you speak some Gaelic there. Thank you so much for that. It's lovely to hear that poem again and to see the small changes that you made in the time that we spoke, but I'm looking forward to seeing how it develops as well. I remember having a lovely conversation with you. Thank you so much for just your warmth and your generosity of spirit, and for allowing me to kind of get involved with your work and be a participant of that work. It was a real pleasure. Thank you so much, Maren. Next up to the stage.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome, Maren. A pleasure. Please welcome to the stage, Jules.
Well, this wouldn't exist if it hadn't been for the residency. Easter entropy. On Dead Good Friday, I surreptitiously slid into a slice of heaven, a corner blessed by God, benignly overlooked. After that debacle with Adam and Eve and the apple, God gave a green light to these green-fingered Avogo, grow your own types. Higgledy-piggledy husbandry, a paradise of planting, potting and pottering pocket-sized personal plots, a grassroots, gated community, imperfect Eden bisected by the railway that burrows beneath the adjacent school, where scally smoking spliffs swear at retirees sowing seeds and throw stones smashing greenhouse glass, shattering the peace. An old boy breaking fresh ground found as he diligently dug dirt over 2 dumped kittens covered and curled in a composted corner. A wiry, weathered old guy wheels his wheelbarrow by, pauses to show me his wares, a rusted steel head of an elegant hoe, the heavy weight of a metal mallet. He plans wooden handles for both, waste not, want not, improvise, repurposing, recycling and rescuing, getting by and making do. Whilst I sat, he set down his barrow, pulled out his secateurs, cut away the trailing bramble, threatening to tear my right ear. Eco-warrior waging war on weeds, one weed at a time. An oasis without Noel and Liam. This is where turning away from Tesco, abandoning Aldi and leaving Lidl can begin. Finding a feeling, a flavour for fresh fine food, one carrot at a time. Sowing seeds that will soon feed into Tuesday's tea, Sunday's lunch. I'm sat on a pallet bench reading the price of pellets for killing slugs. £2.60 a kilo, the cost of manure, £3 a bag when available. I'm growing a poem, listening to horticultural tips shared by Terry on Radio 2 from his allotment in the Rhondda Valley. Blossoms and buds, tulips, swings in the trees, a trampoline. Rhubarb roses, long garden hoses, intermittent hammering, chatter, laughter, church bells. Orange bricks, whole and halved, iron, plastic, even asbestos, corrugated, blue, butts and buckets, tarps, tubs, bins and crates, wood, stacks, every which kind, just in case, growth, grass, moss, foliage, shoots and leaves, an audit of birds, minus pigeons, seagulls and sparrows, jay, magpie, goldfinch, great tit and robin. An audit of structures, sheds, huts, chalet, cabin, greenhouses, new and in varying states of disarray and decay. Busy, urgent bursts of boisterous birdsong break my reverie. Blown in crisp packets, trapped in the overgrown verges, compete with unruly golden orb dandelions, blooming beside the network of grey gravel paths, passing beside forbidding, fearsome fuck-off fences. Less formal, ham-fisted affairs form firm boundaries and borders between one person's beans and another person's peas. Dishevelled, disorderly, disobedient devices divide and demarcate, dirt dug for collies and cabbages and dirt dug for spuds, curly kale, parsnips and swede. Mediating between seeds, minor miracles marinating in mud, 10 green bottles, Heineken, planted upside down, garden of haphazard hope, a heavenly perennial.
Thank you so much, Jules. That was a pleasure to listen to. We spoke about this on Tuesday. You came along on, no, maybe it was Wednesday. We spoke about that poem earlier this week. You came into the open mic a day later and it was completely different. And now it's completely different again. I salute your productivity and your ability to adapt so quickly. And I hope you won't mind me saying, but when we first spoke, we were talking about alliteration and how you were using so much of it and it was kind of getting in the way. Whereas here, you've really lifted the pieces that you want to lift with the alliteration. Everything sings with a clarity to it that makes it all stand out in my mind. So absolutely hats off to you for taking that feedback on board and for very quickly managing to do that incredible job in such a short space of time. I'm really impressed, I have to say. Thank you so much for sharing it as well. You kept my attention throughout that poem, which is quite long, but you know, you can hold my attention for that long. So well done, and thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for inspiring me. Cheers.
Wow, what a way to finish on the last one. Thank you for inspiring me. I can see you getting emotional. Well, first of all, just to everybody, let's give them all a big round of applause for performing, because I mean, can you believe it? Like, I mean, and I always say this, to see some where people have come from, some of those writers wouldn't even share work at the beginning of their journey, and to hear them not just having a go, but mastering it really. Really is quite something, isn't it? And I've got to say, Jules, like, I think you did. I think you really, the alliteration was just, because we've done stuff before and I'm like, you're going to go too far with that. And I just thought it was gorgeous. All three of you, Marion, absolutely just had me there. I think if you watch this video back, I think I'm just like either really smiling or I've got my eyes closed. And Ange, I mean, I think that's going to stay with me. The line about the priest spent in prayer, like, wow. Gorgeous. Lots of comments going on here. Jules, that was a homage poem, beautiful, blown away by the talent in the room. An Oasis without Noel and Liam. I did have a chuckle about that one. You were all incredible. Lauren's favourite word. See if she used her other favourite word in here as well. Love the alliterations and the half rhymes, the fuck off fences. I like that one. Nancy, did you want to ask us a question? Is that why you've got your hand raised, and I'm happy to take a question if you want, or I'm not sure if it's, I can't see because your camera's not on. Oh, it's gone off now. Maybe not then. If anybody did have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We can take them before we finish. I just want to say really again, thank you to the writers. I'm going to thank Ciarán in a minute, but it's beyond brave to get up and do that. And I don't think everybody really understands that. I think it's great to come into this space and own it, and just to see the progression in all three of you is just wonderful and has made me quite emotional. But what a way to finish a Friday. So thank you all for coming and reading with us. Ciarán, thank you so much for coming back and being our writer on the block. I said to you before, you're leaving me twice, but me, having me in tears. And this time it's digitally, so I can't hold on to you like, don't. But it's been an absolute pleasure. And just from the feedback that we've had, and I've had emails in, just that creativity really does impact our lives. It's something that we can use for wider than just a career. It's for our mental health, it's for pleasure, and it can be to challenge things. But none of that would matter if we didn't have masters like yourself leading us through it. So thank you very, very much. Can we give Ciarán a huge round of applause? Him off the screen before I stop sobbing. Thank you so much. So that does conclude the end of this this month's Writers Block and the residency. Thank you all for joining us, and again, thank you to Ciarán. I just I'm coming in with a little bit of news that we are going to take a slight hiatus on the Writers Block, just because we're delivering the festival next month, and so for staff capacity, and we'll be back to you at the beginning of July. But there will still be lots of things for you to get involved in. We're going to have the festival next month, which I'll talk a little bit more in depth in a moment. And then there's also going to be lots of different projects that are going to be going live in the next couple of weeks. I can see Amy Carrington nodding like this to say, yes, there is. So we'll be putting those opportunities coming out very soon as well. We do have Wow Fest that is back live and in person. Another thing that Ciarán pioneered with us at Writing on the Wall. And this year, WowFest 22 is called Future Imperfect. We'll be kicking off on Tuesday the 3rd of May with Gary Young, and with a bit of a festival launch, and then Gary Young in the blue coat doing a kind of keynote speech called I Danced Here on Other People's Dreams. Future Imperfect is a bit of a call to arms. Where are we now? Where can we go? How the things that Ciarán was talking about, how can we go together in a greener and safer and more inclusive environment? I'm sure there'll be lots of celebrations, lots of arguments too throughout the month of May. It's absolutely jam-packed. There's the likes of Sean Fay talking about transgender issue, and then we've got right through to Tony Schumacher, who's doing the responder as well. We have a look at our website. Oh, there you go, Georgia, before I even had to ask, just popped it in the chat function. We also know that times are difficult. So if you are interested in coming to events, but they are difficult for you to attend, then please do just drop me an email and I'll pop that in the chat function or the info chat. And I'm more than happy to have a conversation and support on that. Also, if anybody would be interested in volunteering with us, there's always volunteering opportunities, and Lauren will drop an email for info. Actually, we'll put it all as info, because we're having a little get together next Tuesday if anybody wants to come along and is interested in volunteering. So just to recap, because I've just given you a lot of information, Wow Fest is beginning on the 1st of May, and that does mean that we're having a little hiatus with the Writers Bloc, but we will be back. Don't worry, we're not going anywhere. With a brand new writer that I do know, but I can't say it out loud just yet. So that's really hard. Yeah, get involved with us. There'll be a monitoring form. If you've enjoyed this with Ciarán, send us your work, keep in touch with us. And yeah, see you all very, very soon. Thanks for joining us and have a gorgeous weekend. Bye, everybody. Hear my dog snoring, sorry, in the background while you're all leaving. Bye, bye, bye. Okay. Oh, Marin's gone.